I never thought I'd bury my grandmother's antique locket, the one she'd pressed into my palm on her deathbed, whispering it held the key to our family's fractured legacy, right there in the rose garden of the house I grew up in, under the watchful eyes of the very people who'd sworn to protect me. But as I knelt in the damp Kentucky soil that sweltering August afternoon, the locket's chain tangled around my fingers like a noose. I realized protection had always been a lie. My parents had auctioned off my soul for a shot at redemption with a man who'd already carved out my heart. And the worst part? They weren't done. They were coming for my son next. Little Theo. The only light I'd clawed from the wreckage. Dragging us into a courtroom circus, where blood ties twisted into weapons sharper than any knife. That was the day I decided. No more playing the dutiful daughter. The forgiving ex-wife. Revenge wasn't just a word anymore. It was the blueprint I'd inscribe in every line of their smug faces. Starting with the truth they'd buried deeper than that locket. I'd make them choke on it, one gasping breath at a time. My name's Piper Harlan. And if you think family feuds are just Thanksgiving blow-ups over politics, you haven't lived in the hollows of eastern Kentucky, where old money mingles with fresh grudges like bourbon and branch water. I was 32, a single mom scraping by as a freelance graphic designer in Lexington, when the first crack in the facade appeared. It started with a letter from the family lawyer, Mr. Hargrove, dry as dust, with his wire-rimmed glasses and that perpetual squint like he was reading hieroglyphs on a tax form. Dear MS. Harlan, it began, all formal and folksy. It is with regret that I inform you of the disposition of the Harlan estate following your grandmother's passing last spring. Regret? That word hit like a sucker punch. Grandma Maeve had been the rock of our clan, a steel magnolia widow who'd bootstrapped the family coal brokerage from nothing after Grandpa's mine accident in '89. She'd promised me her share, 60% of the business. Enough to finally buy that fixer-upper in the bluegrass for Theo and me. Maybe even hire a nanny so I could chase that promotion at the ad agency. But according to Hargrove, the shares had been reallocated to my ex-husband, Jake Caldwell, as part of a private settlement. Private? The ink on our divorce papers was barely dry, 6 months. Tops and Jake, that silver-tongued salesman with his trucker hat and easy grin, had already moved on to some yoga instructor in Nashville. I drove straight to Mama and Daddy's that evening, the letter crumpled in my fist like a bad report card. Their sprawling ranch house on the outskirts of Harlan, named after us. Of course, because legacy was everything, loomed like a bad omen under the harvest moon. Daddy was on the back porch, nursing a Jack and Coke, his flannel shirt untucked over a belly that spoke of too many Friday fish fries. Mama fluttered out from the kitchen, her pearls clacking like warning beads, smelling of fried chicken and Chanel No. 5. Pip. Honey, what on earth's got you out here so late, she cooed, pulling me into a hug that felt like quicksand. I shoved the letter at her. What the hell is this? You gave my inheritance to Jake. After everything? Daddy's rocker creaked to a stop. He adjusted his John Deere cap, eyes narrowing like he was sizing up a faulty fence post. Now, Piper, don't go getting your britches in a twist. It was for the best. Jake's got big plans, expanding the brokerage into renewables. Solar something or other. Your grandma would have wanted that. Grandma would have wanted her only granddaughter to have a fighting chance, I snapped, heat rising in my chest like moonshine fire. Not to bail out the man who cheated on me with his secretary while I was miscarrying our second kid. Mama's hand flew to her throat, pearls shifting like they might strangle her. Language. Piper Grace. That was a low point for all of us. Jake's changed. He's family. Family? I laughed. bitter as black coffee. He stopped being family the day he packed his bags and left me crying on the bathroom floor. And you too? You sat there at the mediation, nodding along like bobbleheads, then snuck this behind my back. Daddy stood, all 6'4" of him casting a shadow that swallowed the porch light. We did what we had to. The business was bleeding money after the '08 crash, your grandpa's loans, the regulations. Jake had investors lined up. You're off in Lexington playing house with that boy. No daddy in sight. Who'd run it? Theo. They always circled back to Theo. My 4-year-old tornado of curls and questions. The miracle I'd birthed alone in a hospital room while Jake was on a business trip to Vegas. He'd come crawling back once. All apologies and empty promises. But I'd locked the door. Now, hearing them drag my son into their ledger of excuses. Something snapped, a wire I'd been soldering together since the divorce. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced my tiny apartment, Theo snoring softly in his dinosaur sheets, the city lights flickering like faulty synapses. By dawn, I'd pulled every box from storage, Grandma's old ledgers, yellowed photos of the Harlan mines, that damn locket with its hidden compartment. I'd always known there were secrets, whispers about Daddy's side deals in the '90s, when coal kings ruled and the EPA was just a bad joke. But as I pried open the locket with a butter knife, a tiny key tumbled out, etched with coordinates. Not just any spot, the back 40 of the family property, where the old storm cellar hid under the rose bushes. I waited until Theo was at preschool, then drove back to Harlan under a sky bruised with thunderheads. The key fit the cellar lock like it was forged for sin. Inside, amid rusted cans and cobwebs thick as regrets, I found the files, ledgers from '95, detailing bribes to inspectors, falsified safety reports, the kind that buried men alive in shallow shafts. Daddy hadn't just mismanaged the business, he'd rigged collapses to squeeze insurance, letting 3 miners, good men, union guys, go down as acts of God. And the kicker? The payout had funded Jake's first venture, the one that hooked him into our world. Grandma had known, covered for him once to keep the family name clean, but she'd made me promise to expose it if they ever turned. Turned? They'd spun 180 degrees, handing my future to the devil who'd fathered it. I photographed everything, hands shaking like I'd mainlined espresso. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a blood debt, stained with coal dust and lies. And as rain hammered the tin roof, I vowed they'd pay, not with money, but with the empire they'd built on bones. The weeks blurred into a haze of caffeine and court dates. But I wasn't the one filing papers, not yet. First, I needed leverage, the kind that doesn't bend in a judge's gavel. I hired a PI out of Louisville, a grizzled ex-cop named Ruiz who chain-smoked camels and called everyone chief. $50 an hour bought me shadows, Jake schmoozing solar execs at a rooftop bar in Louisville, Mama lunching with a county clerk, her old sorority sister, over Cobb salads that probably cost more than my rent. And Daddy? He was digging, literally, in the back acres, unearthing some historical artifact with a backhoe that screamed cover-up. Ruiz's report landed in my inbox like a grenade. Jake wasn't just expanding, he was flipping the brokerage into a greenwashing scam, selling carbon credits backed by nothing but hot air and Harlan ghosts. My inheritance? Funneling straight into offshore accounts, with Mama and Daddy as silent partners. The betrayal burrowed deeper. They'd framed me for the '08 shortfall years back, cooking books to say I'd borrowed against Grandma's shares for Theo's medical bills.
Lies.
I'd paid every dime out of pocket after his croup turned to pneumonia, while they vacationed in the Smokies. I confronted them at Sunday supper, the one tradition they clung to like a life raft. The dining room table groaned under pot roast and cornbread, Theo giggling as he mashed peas into abstract art. "Pass the gravy, son," Daddy boomed,
O lavuncular çarm.
but his eyes flicked to me like I was the help. "Actually, Daddy," I said, sliding a manila envelope across the linen. "Pass this first. Your bribery files from '95. Ring any bells?" Mama's fork clattered. Jake, who'd shown up uninvited with a bottle of Napa Cab like he still belonged, froze mid-sip. Theo looked up. "Peas forgotten." "What's bribery, Mommy?" "Big people games." "Baby," I murmured, ruffling his hair. "To them, 3 dead miners. Insurance fraud. You let them rot while you cash checks. And Jake, you rode that gravy train right into my bed." Jake's jaw ticked, that boyish smile curdling. "Piper,
Darlin'.
you're hun. This is divorce residue. We can talk." "Talk." I laughed, the sound echoing off the wainscoting. "You talked your way into my vows, then out of them with that in turn. Now you're stealing my son's future?"
No.
"We're done talking." Daddy's face purpled, veins popping like overripe tomatoes. "You little fool. Those files are ancient history. Dig 'em up, and you bury us all, yourself included. Think of Theo."
Ah.
Theo, their ace. Always. As we cleared plates, Mama pulled me aside in the powder room, her voice a saccharine hiss. "He's your blood."
Piper.
"But a mother alone?
Courts don't look kindly on that.
We've got friends, judges, lawyers.
Step back.
Or we'll have to. Protect him."
Protect.
The word slithered like a snake in Eden. That night, back in Lexington, I bolted the doors, Theo's nightlight casting dinosaur silhouettes on the walls. Sleep evaded me. Instead, I plotted. Revenge wasn't a bonfire, it was a slow burn. Embers under ash. Step 1. Leak the files anonymously to the United Mine Workers Union rep. A bulldog named Kowalski I'd cold-called from Grandma's old Rolodex. "Harlan ghosts," I whispered over burner phone. "Time to wake by Tuesday." Whispers rippled through the hollers. Investigations. Audits. Headlines in the Lexington Herald-Leader screaming coal legacy or criminal cover-up. Jake's solar pitch tanked. Investors ghosted faster than a bad Tinder date. Daddy called. Voice gravelly. "What have you done, girl?" "Sabotage." "Justice," I corrected. Theo chattering in the background about finger painting a volcano. "You taught me family first." Lesson learned. But they flipped the script quicker than a politician at a fundraiser. 2 days later, a process server banged on my door. Paper summoning me to family court in Harlan County. Custody battle. They claimed I was unstable, erratic behavior, financial distress, endangering the child with my vendetta exhibits, my PI invoices, the leaked articles, even a doctored email making it look like I'd threatened Jake. Mama's sorority sister, the clerk, had fast-tracked it. I stared at the summons, world tilting.
Theo.
Napping on the couch with his stuffed T-Rex. Oblivious. They'd weaponized my son, the one pure thing in this mess. Rage boiled. But I swallowed it, raw emotion loses cases. I called Ruiz. Dig deeper. Find the flip.
He did.
In a safety deposit box under Mama's maiden name. Letters from 98. Jake confessing to Daddy about the bribes. Begging for a cut. Daddy hadn't just covered, he'd mentored. Turning my ex into his mini-me. And the secret I'd borne? After the third miner's funeral, a kid my age. Crushed in a slip. I'd found the ledger. Confronted Daddy.
To shield him.
I'd forged a school absence note, claiming food poisoning so no one questioned why the boss's daughter skipped town that week. I'd carried that lie like a tumor, letting it metastasize into my marriage, my motherhood. No more. I lawyered up with a firebrand from Louisville. Elena Vasquez, tattoos peeking from her blazer cuffs. Accent like rolling thunder. They want war, she grinned over takeout tacos. We'll give M scorched earth. As filings flew, tension coiled like a spring in a bear trap. Jake cornered me at Theo's preschool pickup. All faux concern in his pressed khakis. This is insane.
Pipes.
Drop the drama, and I'll talk shares. For the kid. Shares, I hissed, shielding Theo behind my legs. You mean the blood money you and my parents laundered through my grandma's grave? His eyes hardened, the mask slipping. You always were too soft. Daddy said you'd fold.
Daddy.
The puppet master, pulling strings from his leather recliner. I saw it then, the flip-flops, the schemes. Mama's tears at holidays masking calculations, Daddy's folksy wisdom a smokescreen for cutthroat deals. They'd raised me to be the good girl, the scapegoat, while Jake played Prince. Court loomed like a guillotine, but I had one card left. The locket's key led to more, a hidden vein of unmined coal on the property. Worth millions if declared. Daddy had buried the surveys to avoid taxes. But with the scandals, it'd surface like a corpse in spring thaw. My revenge? Expose it all. Force a sale that gutted their empire. But in doing so, bankrupt the town, jobs lost, families shattered. Controversial? Hell yes. Right or wrong, that was the razor-wire-eyed walk. Theo tugged my hand. Mommy. Why's everyone mad? I knelt, heart fracturing. Sometimes, baby, mad is how we fix broken. The courtroom smelled like stale coffee and desperation. The kind that clings to oak benches worn smooth by a century of Kentucky reckonings. Harlan County Family Court. Third floor of a brick fortress that doubled as the historical society on weekends. Ironic, given how my family was about to become Exhibit A in revisionist history. I sat ramrod straight in my thrift store blazer. Theo's crayon drawing of a happy family folded in my purse like a talisman. Across the aisle, Jake slouched in a suit that screamed, I own this town, Mama dabbing her eyes with a lace hanky. Daddy stone-faced beside their shark of a lawyer. Mr. Thibodeau, NOLA transplant with a drawl that could charm snakes. Judge Harlan, no relation. Thank God, just a cruel cosmic joke, rapped her gavel, silencing the murmurs from the back pews packed with nosy cousins and union reps I'd tipped off. MS.
Harlan v.
Caldwell et al., she intoned, peering over bifocals. Custody modification. Let's keep it civil.
Folks.
Civil? Vasquez leaned in, her whisper fierce. They're bluffing. Hit M with the recordings. I'd gone nuclear. Hidden mic in the rose garden during a reconciliation lunch they'd ambushed me with. Daddy's voice. Gravelly and unfiltered. Jake's the father figure Theo needs. Girls unhinged, leaking those files. We'll get the boy. Sell the vein quiet like. And she's left with crumbs. The vein. That untapped coal seam. Black gold worth 8 figures. Buried under falsified EPA filings. Exposing it would trigger federal probes. Tank the brokerage. But save Theo from their clutches. Polarizing as hell. Save my kid. Screw the town? Miners I'd grown up with. Faces etched in my memory from church potlucks. Would lose everything. No heroes here. Just survivors clawing for air. Vasquez projected the audio. The courtroom thickening with gasps. Mama's hanky twisted into knots. Jake's foot tapped a frantic Morse code. Thibodeau objected. Prejudicial. Your Honor. But Judge Harlan waved him off, her lips thinning to a Kentucky straight line. Mr. Caldwell, she addressed Jake. Care to explain why your discus in asset liquidation in a child custody hearing? He straightened, flashing that salesman smile. Your Honor. Piper's under duress. She's fabricating. I shot up. Voice cracking the air like a .22. Like how you fabricated alibis for Daddy's bribes. Or how Mama forged my signature on those loans to cover your affair slush fund. The gallery erupted, shouts from the back. A bailiff barking order.
Theo.
In the care of a social worker, just off the bench. Peeked from the antechamber. Eyes wide as saucers. My heart seized. This circus. For him, Vasquez slid in the kill shot, the safety deposit letters. Projected large on the screen. Jake's chicken scratch confession. I knew the risks. But Harlan blood runs deep. Cut me in, and I'll keep quiet. Daddy's reply. Typed crisp. Son.
You're in.
But the girl's the firewall. Marry her. Shield us. Marry her. I'd been the human shield. The disposable daughter who'd borne their sins. Forging that note. Swallowing miscarriages. Raising their pawn while they plotted. The room spun. Whispers swelled to a roar. A miner in the back yelled. Traitors. Echoing the betrayal that bound us all. Thibodeau called recess. But the damage festered. In the hallway, Mama cornered me. Tears real this time. Mascara tracks like war paint. Piper.
Please.
We did it for you for the legacy. Your daddy. The pressure after the cave-in. Jake was our way out.
Out.
I whispered. Venom sweet on my tongue. You drove me out.
But fine.
Legacy it is. That's when I played the twist. Not destruction, but detonation. I'd partnered with Kowalski overnight, union buyout of the brokerage, using the vein as collateral for worker co-op. No sale, no scandal, just reclamation. The files? Donated to a whistleblower fund. Anonymous. With immunity for the daughter who carried the lie. Federal heat on Daddy and Jake.
But the town? Saved.
Jobs transitioned to solar retrofits. Real green. Not Jake's grift. Vasquez had filed the countermotion that morning. Full custody to me. Supervised visits for Jake. Supervised grandparenting with therapy mandates. And the inheritance? Reverted via Grandma's ironclad will codicil. Triggered by moral turpitude. I'd known about it. Tucked in the locket's lining. A failsafe Maeve had whispered once. Drunk on elderflower wine. Back in session. Thibodeau blustered. But the judge's ruling dropped like a gavel guillotine. Custody mine. Assets frozen pending investigation. Jake lunged forward. This ain't over. But bailiffs pinned him. Daddy met my eyes. Not with rage. But defeat, a hollow man. Stripped bare. Mama sobbed, reaching for Theo through the barrier. But he clung to me. Tiny fist in my sleeve. As we exited into the blinding noon sun, reporters swarmed, local news vans, a Courier-Journal stringer shoving mics. MS. Harlan. Was it worth it? The town's furious. Says you're killing coal. I paused on the steps. Theo hoisted on my hip, his weight an anchor. Worth it? Ask the families of the men my daddy buried. Ask my son, who gets to grow up free. But inside, the doubt gnawed. Was I avenger or arsonist? The co-op would employ hundreds. Sure. But traditions die hard in the hollers. Friends unfriended me on Facebook that night. Judas scrawled on my truck in spray paint by dawn. Months later, the dust settled uneasy. Daddy plea-bargained to community service. Jake skipped town for a podunk firm in Alabama. Sending postcards Theo used as coasters. Mama? She showed up Sundays.
Tentative.
With puzzles and no agenda. Forgiveness flickered. But trust? Buried with the locket. Theo asked once. Building Legos into a mine shaft. Grandpa bad. Mommy? I hesitated. The twist biting deepest. No one's all bad. Or all good. He made mistakes.
Baby.
Big ones. But family's about fixin', or walkin' away wiser. As for me, I bought the bluegrass house. Inheritance intact. Started a design firm specializing in eco-graphics. Irony's my middle name. But in quiet moments, staring at the rose garden I'd never reclaim, I wonder, did revenge heal? Or just scar over? The town split. Half hail me as savior. Half spit at my shadow. Debatable ending? You bet. And that's the Harlan way. No clean wins, just echoes in the hollows. Calling you back for more.